Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And we have a story here which is basically the law of unintended consequences. When is a hate crime not a hate crime? Well, according to the SNP, hate is one of those crimes where the person who feels like they're being hated against has to be believed, and the police are, by law, obliged to deal with the issue if it's reported. That's Humza's hate law, be whatever it is, if a misgendered religion, sex, age. He's got so many different variations on this hate law. And that's very strange, because when something is quite obviously hateful, designed to be against a particular religion, then you would think that that would definitely be a hate law crime and that the police would be obliged to do something. But not in the wonderful world of Scotland, because of course when you have a Muslim First Minister, he brings that law in thinking it'll be a hate law so that he can protect Muslims. And he never for one moment thought, oh my God, it's going to have to be used to protect Jews from Muslims and their supporters. And so he's in a bit of a quandary, isn't it? And we're going to take a look at this to see why this law has come back to bite Humza Yousaf firmly on his big, lazy, fat backside. Here goes. So, Scottish ministers refuse to say if pro-Palestine and Hamas chanting will be classed as a hate crime. Well, it can't be anything else, since Hamas has said that its sole aim is the eradication of all Jews, and we've seen what's happened over the last weekend. Anyone chanting pro-Palestine and Hamas chants, it can be nothing other than a hate crime. And under what Humza Yousaf wants to bring in as a law, he is obliged to break up these chants, to arrest people at these protests, to deal with the problem of hate crime. His law. And yet there they are, keeping firmly shut their mouths. Oh dear, how very embarrassing for him. Imagine going back and having to sit in the mosque and go, yeah, I brought this in and now I've got to come and protect all the Jews that we're dedicated to eradicate because we're pro-Hamas. And we know he's pro-Hamas because he hasn't fired the Greens, who are admittedly pro-Hamas. So he is pro-Hamas. He is pro-eradication of the Jews. He is someone who supports baby killers. He's your First Minister, and he will not deal with the problem, and he will not use his own damn law. What is the point of him? Anyway, the SNP Green government has refused to follow Suella Braverman's stance in ordering police in England and Wales to take swift and appropriate enforcement action when protests cross the boundary into anti-Semitism. The very fact that they're there is anti-Semitism. The Scottish Government has refused to give a view on whether chants, flags and banners deemed to be pro-Hamas and anti-Israel will be classed as a hate crime in Scotland because they are scared, because they are spineless, ballless jellyfish who don't want to upset the tiny, tiny minority. They are very, very craven people. This comes despite a rise in anti-Semitic attacks and protests in the wake of the military conflict in the Middle East, sparked by the Hamas atrocities last weekend. Home Secretary Suella Braverman has suggested that Hamas symbols and chants like "From River to the Sea, Palestine will be free" should be investigated as a cause of concern. It's actually a hate crime. There's no other way of doing it. When you're calling for a group and you're supporting a group whose sole admitted aim is the eradication, the Holocaust, the genocide of an entire religion, then that is a hate crime. She said in a letter to police bosses in England and Wales that she expected officers to use the full force of the law to prevent harassment of the UK's Jewish community. She wrote, I would encourage police to consider whether chants such as "From the River to the Sea, Palestine will be free" should be understood as an expression of a desire, can't say the V word, to see Israel erased from the world, and whether it is used in certain contexts may amount to racially aggravated Section 5 public order offences. And of course it must do. By the very act, any support for Hamas must be seen like that. The SNP administration has been under scrutiny since Humza Yousaf delayed his condemnation of Hamas. Yeah, because he daren't. He daren't do it. He's such a coward. He had to run to the mosque to get permission to be able to condemn them. Because, taqiyya, the right to lie to normal people, right? Because he didn't want to just say it out loud in case other Muslims thought he meant it, in which case they'd come after him. Coward. Anyway, the power-sharing partners in the Green Party openly backed Palestine and Hamas and blamed Israel for Hamas's attacks. Asked if they would follow Miss Braverman's lead, the Scottish Government said it was an operational matter for Police Scotland. And that's BS, since the Police Scotland firstly are in the pocket of the SNP, and also it is not an operational matter, it is a political matter, because it's operating with the laws that the SNP have brought in. Scottish Jews have already raised concern about the rise in targeted harassment, and international incidents have heard crowds waving the Palestinian flag, shouting obscenities like "gas the Jews." I think, and I just genuinely think that perhaps militant Islam has no place in the Western world, and that anyone who goes to these rallies must be encouraged to go and live in the Middle East, whence this religion came from. Send them all back to Saudi Arabia. Say, look, that's who you support. Go back to Saudi Arabia and give them the option. Give up your religion and stay in the West with decent, respectable people, or go and join the barbarian savages who think that Hamas are great guys. Because that's what that is. If you're supporting Hamas, you're a barbarian savage, and you have no place in a decent society. As well as drawing attention to chants, Miss Braverman said, I would encourage police to give similar consideration to the presence of symbols, such as the swastikas at anti-Israel demonstrations. Context is crucial. Behaviours that are legitimate in some circumstances, for example, the waving of a Palestinian flag, may not be legitimate, such as when intended to glorify acts of tourism. She's right, and this is the thing. And the wonderful thing is, they can't actually call her out for the old waithism, can they? Because, not white. Nor is it acceptable, she says, to drive through Jewish neighbourhoods or single out Jewish members of the public to aggressively chant or wave pro-Palestinian symbols at them. Where harassment is identified, I would encourage the police to take swift and appropriate enforcement action, which should involve picking these people up, putting them on a plane and getting them out of the country. In a letter, Ms Braverman encouraged chief constables to ensure they had a strong police presence to protect and bring perpetrators to justice over offensive placards, chants and behaviour. Now, why is it that this woman here, right, Suella Braverman, why is it she has got a huge pair of testicles and yet Humza Yousaf lacks any at all? Isn't that weird? You have a woman with a huge set of iron balls and a man with none. A Ken doll. A little Ken doll who has to get his political advice from the local mosque because he daren't say anything in case he upsets someone. What a prick. Anyway, I'm done with that. Moving on to the next story. But, it just goes to show that he brings these laws in, but he doesn't bring them in for everyone. He brings that hate law in for one particular group. And we know which group that was. Coming up. He really doesn't know what to do, does he? He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know what line to take, because he knows the vast proportion of people in Scotland are going to be looking at what Hamas did with absolute disgust, terror, revulsion. And yet he himself supports them. And he supports those that support them. He's pro-Hamas. He's pro-Palestine. He's pro-baby murderers. But he can't say it. But he can't speak against it, and he's caught in a very tough place. And do the people of Scotland really want someone who is pro baby killers to be their FM? I think not. I think the message needs to go out, even within SNP. I think even the SNP supporters must look at Humza Yousaf in a new light now. This is a man who supports the beheading of babies. One woman had the baby cut out of her. She was pregnant. She had the baby cut out of her. And the baby was beheaded in front of her as she lay dying. That's what these people are. Well, they're not even people anymore, are they? That's what these animals are. And when animals go rogue like that, there's only one thing you do with them. You put them down. All of them. You put them all down. Make sure every member of Hamas is hanged. And you say to the people of Gaza, you have two choices. You either hand over Hamas, or we consider everyone in Gaza to be Hamas. And that is your solution. Tell you what, quick as you like, they'll have those buggers out. Oh well, never mind. Still, let's see what the Israeli forces are going to do this weekend. I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. I just think it's amazing that this guy has managed to become the First Minister when he's so filled with hate. It's the SNP though. They're all filled with hate. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, stay out of trouble, and stay off the streets today. There's likely to be some trouble. Bye.